Sister demands my dream wedding venue for her own rushed ceremony since she's pregnant, and my family sides with her manipulation. My fiance and I have been together for 8 years and engaged for 3. We wanted our wedding to be absolutely perfect, so 3 years ago we booked our dream venue, the most stunning location we could imagine. It was wildly popular, so the only date we could secure was September of this year. A few months ago, my younger sister got engaged to her fiance. They were thinking of a spring wedding for next year. Then, she found out she was pregnant. I was genuinely ecstatic. Finally, I was going to be an aunt. Yesterday, our parents hosted a family barbecue and invited both of us with our partners. My sister took this as the perfect opportunity to announce her pregnancy to all our extended family. The reaction was exactly what you'd hope: joy, hugs, smiles, and my brother-in-law looking so happy and proud. That's when my nan chimed in, asking if my sister's wedding would still be next spring, or if she might wait, since the baby would still be quite young at that time. My sister replied, "Actually, I want to move it up to September." Nan smiled and immediately wanted to help her, talking about how little time there was to plan but how she could make it work. Then, my sister turned to me. "That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I was really hoping we could, take your venue? I can't handle the stress of planning a wedding and maternity classes. It's just such a beautiful place. It would really mean so much to me." Suddenly, everyone went quiet. All eyes were on me, waiting for me to be the good big sister and just agree. My brother-in-law looked super uncomfortable and reminded her, gently but firmly, that we'd already talked about this, and it wasn't okay to put me on the spot. My sister wasn't having it. She insisted, "Don't be like that. My sister wants what's best for me, so it's not a big deal, right?" I took a deep breath and replied, "Well, it kind of is. I have my heart really set on this venue." She burst into tears and stormed inside. My nan glared at me, and told me I was being selfish. My sister needed the venue more than I did. I tried to defend myself, but then my mother jumped in. "You waited 3 years. Would it really kill you to wait a few more months? When has your sister ever asked you for anything?" More comments followed, and soon my fiancé was furious. We got up and left. Later, my sister called me, still crying, insisting it wasn't fair that I always seemed to get what I want, and why couldn't I just do this one thing for her? My dad said that it's just a venue, and that all that truly matters is the person you're marrying. Part of me knows he's right, but after planning for so long and dreaming of this moment, it's so hard to just let go. Update 1. My brother-in-law called me and apologized for all the trouble. He told me he'd talked things over with my sister, and apparently, she swore she would never ask me for the venue. He was seriously angry with her now and warned me that she's blaming me for potentially ruining her marriage. As if all this drama wasn't enough, my father has bombarded me with texts, stuff like "I hope you're happy, your sister hasn't stopped crying since yesterday, and it just keeps coming." My fiancé and I made a tough call. We decided to boot my sister from the bridal party and replace her with my aunt, who happens to be the only family member to take my side. We haven't yet decided if we'll invite my family at all to the wedding. To make matters worse, my mom decided to escalate everything and called my fiancé's parents. She told them that, since my sister is pregnant and preeclampsia runs in the family, it would be best for her to have the venue. I have no idea what that's even supposed to mean. Luckily, my future father-in-law does not suffer fools gladly. He told my mom to back off and made it clear that if they keep playing favorites, they'll lose me for good. Now my mom is sobbing about how my father-in-law is an ass, and honestly, it feels like I'm trapped in a ridiculous soap opera. While all this chaos swirled around me, my in-laws got in the car and drove over to my place bringing supper and wine. They kept repeating, "Don't worry, no matter what, you have us, you have a safety net." I broke down in tears, but this time from sheer happiness. It hasn't been very long, but the impact has been overwhelming. I wasn't expecting any of this. What truly boggles my mind is seeing this saga spill out into the wider world. And then things got stranger. Once my sister saw the story making the rounds online, she absolutely lost it. She accused me of painting her as crazy and twisting every detail. She insisted she only asked nicely because she loves me, and that family should come first. Internet strangers' opinions don't mean anything compared to family happiness. The only thing I texted back was a simple message, and all she replied was, "Wow. You must love me so very much," before promptly blocking me. This morning, she unblocked me to send another passive-aggressive message. After all that, my parents have gone radio silent since the confrontation with my future father-in-law. Then, out of the blue, my older brother reached out. He lives in another city and wasn't at the barbecue, so he had heard only the twisted version my mom fed him, that I supposedly offered the venue to my sister before the barbecue and then humiliated her. I explained to him what really happened, and he had no trouble believing me. We talked at length about our parents' behavior, and he even admitted that part of the reason he moved away was because our parents were, and I quote, "shitheads to us both." He also told me that mom found out about everything from the online post and was furious at me for betraying the family. I haven't written to my parents as so many people have suggested. I just have to process the painful reality that maybe they love my sister more than me. If they love me at all. My fiancé and I sat down together and locked down the majority of our vendors and the venue itself with passwords. I hadn't spoken yet to our wedding planner, so my sister's text still made me nervous. We also canceled the catering that my parents had paid for. So in the short term, we won't have the full catering spread we dreamed of, but our friends and my fiance's family will help pull together a massive buffet. The whole thing will turn into a family and friends cooking party, combining our bachelor and bachelorette events. That's what we're doing now. We canceled our separate parties and turned the food prep into the party itself. Everyone's chipping in, and it's already bringing us closer. I just want to thank the people in my life who helped me see how toxic my family is, and even though it hurts, I have to be honest with myself. If my parents apologize sincerely, they'll be allowed at the wedding, but if not, well, my brother will walk me down the aisle, and my aunt will be there. We finally reached our wedding planner, who was appalled by the whole situation. She assured me she hasn't spoken to my mother since we booked the venue and reassured me that I'd have to be present in person for any changes. No one can do it without me. We let everyone working on the wedding know what's going on, and several even offered to hire security at a reduced rate for the big day. Somehow this mess has cemented something important for me. I have people who actually care about me, and I'm finally learning to put myself first. Update 2. A few days have passed since everything exploded, and, surprisingly, we've managed to sort out a lot. Vendors all have unique passwords now, we've hired extra security, and the menu for the family and friends cookout is officially chosen. On top of that, I'm finally starting therapy soon, which feels like a much needed step forward. But of course, not everything has been resolved so neatly. My sister, never one to let drama rest, has started a digital campaign against me on Facebook. Passive-aggressive posts galore, overflowing with how I've made her depressed and ruined her happiness. Her friends have taken it upon themselves to send me a barrage of nasty messages, calling me every name under the sun for daring to stand up for myself. As for what happened to my brother-in-law, I won't share his story here. He deserves the right to tell it himself, on his own timeline. To protect my sanity, I blocked every single attempt at online harassment, including from my sister herself. But just when I thought things might settle, I walked out 2 days ago to find my car absolutely covered in eggs. Turns out, my sister's best friends had decided it was time to get involved, and gave my car a new shell. I called the police, and my neighbor, whose favorite pastime is spying from her window, immediately identified the culprits. She might be grumpy, but she can be quite lovely if you get to know her. I was angry, sure, but a little grateful, knowing someone was at least on my side. Then comes the part that really raised my blood pressure. After days of silence, my parents called, wanting to talk things out. I was wary but agreed to meet them, my fiancé by my side, at our apartment. The moment they walked in, I saw my mom had been crying, and for 10 whole minutes, I actually felt bad for her. Just 10 though. A lot of people in my life had speculated that my sister must have some diagnosis that explained the way my parents babied her, or that they held back to avoid her infamous meltdowns. But, no, my sister is exactly what she appears to be, a selfish person, with no medical reason for her behavior. Just the garden variety nightmare. We started the meeting awkwardly, making small talk, until my father finally broke the ice with, "Why did you cancel the caterers?" My fiancée didn't hesitate. She told them flat out that we didn't want anything hanging over us, no strings attached. They both looked at us like we had grown horns. My dad acted wounded, swearing up and down he would never do that. I just shrugged and said it's better to be safe than sorry. My mom launched into a lecture about how disrespectful I was being. I told her in no uncertain terms that their recent behavior has been the real disrespect. The conversation spiraled quickly into a heated argument about the venue. My father, the king of platitudes, threw out his favorite line, "It doesn't matter where you get married, but who you're marrying." That was my cue. Exactly, Dad. Isn't it weird how that only applies to me, not to my sister? As long as she's marrying Bill, the venue doesn't matter, right? Dead silence. My father turned bright red and sat there gasping like a fish out of water. My mother started quietly sobbing again. I pressed on, "Well, I'm waiting for your reasoning." Suddenly, my father slammed his hands on the table and went off on a rant about family, sacrifices, and how a loving family should always do everything in their power to make each other happy. I shot back calmly, "Like how you tried to make me happy on my graduation day? Remember when my sister smashed my cake because she wasn't getting enough attention?" Another long silence. Then, in the tiniest voice, my mom asked, "Why do you hate us so much?" I just looked at her and said, "I could ask you guys the same thing." Silence again. It was clear they knew exactly how badly they'd messed up, but neither one was ready to admit it. My mom tried another guilt trip, telling me how miserable my sister is, how she hasn't gone out in days because people are judging her. My dad piped in, excusing it all because she's the youngest, and needs more love and attention. I laid it out, plainly, how hurt I was by their blatant favoritism, how they never even tried to conceal that they loved my sister more. My mom started with the classic, "That's not true. We love you both the same." I wasn't having it. I pulled out my phone and opened a list I'd been keeping, every single instance I could remember of them putting my sister before me. Some had dates, others told the whole story. By the time I finished, both my parents looked haunted and teary-eyed, completely beaten down. They tried to explain it all away, but I cut them off and told them plainly, if they want to be at my wedding, they need to set up family counseling for all of us and apologize. Otherwise, they're not invited. They left. I haven't heard from them since. Update 3. Finally, I get around to writing this update. I know it's been a while, but so much has happened. I have a few life updates. I'm sure you want to hear how my wedding went and the aftermath with my family, so let's get into it. After my last conversation with my parents, nothing changed. They clung to their version of things. I was the villain, supposedly the cause of my sister's depression and her failing relationship. It escalated so badly that I had to block them and change my number, since they kept reaching out from relatives' phones. It was a miserable experience, especially during what was supposed to be such a special time in my life. My sister and her entourage started harassing me on Facebook and Instagram. It got to the point where I just deleted my accounts altogether. The mental toll was heavy, but my husband's family, my friends, and my brother really helped me through it. I ended up cutting off every family member who gave me grief for sticking with my wedding date. Just a few days before the wedding, my nan showed up at my door, literally begging me to let her come. We had a long, emotional conversation. She apologized, though she still didn't fully understand why switching weddings wasn't an option, but promised not to pressure me anymore. We hugged, and I know things aren't fully back to normal between us, but it was a start. The bachelor party was legendary. We cooked well into the early morning, and everything tasted amazing. My husband even baked a gorgeous 3-layer cake. The wedding morning itself was peaceful and full of anticipation. My bridesmaids and I got ready together, sipped Prosecco, and took lots of photos. My dress fit perfectly. I truly felt beautiful. But all that calm disappeared when it was time to leave for the ceremony. We were at the venue, taking some before pictures with my friends, when I saw my sister's little car pulling up. My stomach dropped. I thought I was going to faint. One of my friends raced off to get a security guard because the last thing I wanted was another Hulk smash moment at my wedding. My sister was angry, crying, and the moment she spotted me, she started screaming all kinds of obscenities. According to her, I was a filthy bitch who had made her fiance break up with her. She seemed possessed. I couldn't even feel angry anymore. I just pitied her. To set the scene, the venue had automatic sprinklers that watered the plants every morning, so the ground was still a bit muddy. What happened next was a blur. My sister bent down, grabbed a handful of mud, clearly aiming to throw it at me and my dress. But before she could, my maid of honor suddenly sprinted over and shoved her, sending my sister tumbling onto her butt right in the flower beds. Security showed up just seconds later and escorted her away. And with all that, I suddenly had enough reason to file for a restraining order against her. Honestly, I didn't even want to involve the police. I just desperately wanted her out of my life. The rest of the day? Absolutely magical. I married my best friend, the love of my life, my rock. My brother walked me down the aisle. We all cried during the vows. It was everything I'd ever hoped for. Sure, I missed my parents, but it is what it is. The celebration was hilarious and joyful. My husband and his groomsmen pulled off a choreographed dance to a Taylor Swift song, and the speeches were so funny they could have been straight from a comedy show. We went on our honeymoon, and when we got back, I decided to start searching for jobs in another city. I love my friends, but I needed a clean break from everything that had happened. Good news, I got a new job at a university in a much bigger city, and we're already planning our move. But maybe the biggest, and most cliché, change is that I'm pregnant. Yes, it's a honeymoon baby. We haven't told anyone yet, mostly out of nervousness, so it feels wild writing it down now. I'm actually tearing up just thinking about it. It wasn't in the immediate plans, but we're over the moon nonetheless. The only things I hear about the rest of my family come secondhand from people in town. My sister's apparently still blaming me for her breakup and making up stories about me trying to dox her or whatever else she comes up with. She's moved back in with my parents and refuses to work. Nan mentioned that my parents look completely drained because my sister's acting like a spoiled child. I guess their parenting is catching up to them. Truthfully, despite all the pain of losing family, cutting out the toxic ones was the best decision I could have made. I now have a wonderful husband, a baby on the way, my very own family. Oh, and a shiny new backbone to go with it all. Update 4. I honestly wasn't planning to write another update, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. We've been settled in our new city for about 4 months now, and I'm showing quite a bit at 6 months pregnant. Everything was going smoothly. New job, new friends, complete peace from my family drama. I should have known it was too good to last. Last Tuesday, I was at my regular prenatal appointment when my phone started buzzing nonstop. I ignored it at first, but my doctor even commented on how persistent whoever was calling seemed to be. When I finally checked, I had 12 missed calls from my brother and several frantic texts saying call me now and it's about mom. My heart dropped. I called him back immediately, and the first thing he said was, she's alive, but she's in the hospital. Apparently, my mother had what the doctors initially thought was a heart attack. She's stable now, but it turns out it wasn't her heart. It was a severe panic attack brought on by stress and exhaustion. My brother was calling because, despite everything, he thought I should know. Here's where it gets complicated. While my mom was in the hospital, my dad apparently had a complete breakdown. He called my brother sobbing, admitting that he and my mom have been miserable for months. My sister has been living with them rent-free, refusing to work, and has essentially turned into a recluse who screams at them daily. She's been blaming them for choosing me over her and making their lives hell. But that's not even the worst part. My brother hesitated before telling me this next bit, but apparently my sister has been catfishing people online, pretending to be me. She's been using my old wedding photos and creating fake dating profiles with my name, telling people I'm divorced and available. Some guy even showed up at my parents' house looking for me, which is how they found out. My dad was mortified, and apparently that's what finally pushed my mom over the edge into the panic attack. I was furious, obviously, but also weirdly relieved that my parents were finally seeing my sister for who she really is. My brother said my dad kept repeating, "We created a monster," which honestly felt like the validation I'd been waiting for my entire life. Against my husband's advice, I decided to call my parents at the hospital. My mom answered, and her voice was so small and broken. She immediately started crying and apologizing, saying she finally understood why I left. She begged me to forgive her and said she's been going to therapy since the whole wedding disaster but was too proud to reach out. My dad got on the phone too, and for the first time in my life, he took full responsibility. No excuses, no "but your sister needed more attention" nonsense. Just a broken man admitting he failed as a father and destroyed our family by playing favorites. The conversation was emotional and draining, but it felt like progress. They asked if they could video call to see me, and when I showed them my pregnant belly, my mom completely lost it. Happy tears this time. My dad just kept saying, "We missed so much. We're going to miss everything." Here's where I'm torn. They want to fly out to meet their future grandchild, and honestly, part of me wants that too. But I'm also terrified of letting them back in just to be disappointed again. My husband has been incredible through all of this, but I can tell he's worried about me getting hurt. My brother offered to come with them as a buffer, which actually sounds perfect. He said my parents have given my sister an ultimatum: get a job and contribute to the household, or move out. She chose to move out, apparently to go live with some friend, though my brother suspects it won't last long. The strangest part? I actually feel sorry for my sister now. She's lost her fiance, alienated her entire family, and is so delusional that she's literally pretending to be me online. It's pathetic more than infuriating at this point. We haven't made any final decisions yet about my parents visiting, but we're cautiously optimistic. My therapist says it's okay to give people a chance to change, as long as I protect my boundaries. And honestly, with a baby coming, I'd like my child to know their grandparents, if my parents can prove they've actually learned from their mistakes. The pregnancy hormones definitely aren't helping me think clearly about all this, but for the first time in months, I have a tiny bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, my family isn't completely broken beyond repair. Update 5. I wish I could say everything worked out perfectly after my last update, but life had other plans. The past 2 months have been a roller coaster that makes the wedding drama look like a minor disagreement. My parents did end up flying out to visit when I was 7 months pregnant. The reunion was awkward but hopeful. My mom couldn't stop touching my belly and crying, while my dad kept apologizing and asking if he could help set up the nursery. My brother came with them as promised, and honestly, his presence made everything bearable. For 3 days, it almost felt like we might actually rebuild our relationship. Then my water broke at 32 weeks. I'll spare you the terrifying details, but our daughter arrived 6 weeks early after a complicated emergency delivery. She spent 5 weeks in the NICU, and during that time, my parents completely stepped up. My dad practically lived at the hospital, bringing my husband and me food and coffee, while my mom helped organize everything at home. For the first time in years, I felt like I had real parents. But of course, my sister couldn't let us have peace. 2 weeks after we brought the baby home, I got a call from an unknown number. It was my former brother-in-law, the one who broke up with my sister. Turns out, she'd been harassing him for months, showing up at his workplace and his new apartment. But here's the kicker: she'd been telling people she was still pregnant with his baby and that I had somehow stolen her life. The really disturbing part? She'd been buying baby clothes and nursery items, posting photos on social media with captions like "getting ready for my little miracle." When her friends started asking questions about her still flat stomach, she claimed she was having a cryptic pregnancy where she wouldn't show until the very end. My brother-in-law was calling because she'd escalated to showing up at his parents' house with a fake ultrasound photo, badly photoshopped with my baby's information, demanding they accept their grandchild. His family was so disturbed they called the police. I felt sick. While I was fighting for my premature daughter's life in the NICU, my sister was living in some delusional fantasy world where she was having the baby instead of me. My husband wanted to call the police immediately, but I decided to call my parents first. My mom answered, and I could hear the exhaustion in her voice before I even explained why I was calling. Apparently, my sister had been calling them daily, alternating between begging to come home and screaming about how they'd abandoned their real daughter for the fake one. When I told them about the fake pregnancy and the harassment of my ex-brother-in-law, there was this long, horrible silence. Finally, my dad got on the phone and said, "We're done. We're completely done with her." He sounded broken but resolute. They'd already been working with a therapist about setting boundaries, but this was the final straw. They drove to where my sister was staying and told her she needed professional help and that they wouldn't be giving her any more money or support until she got it. Her response? She threw a literal tantrum, screaming that they were choosing their fake grandchild over their real daughter. Then she did something that still makes my blood boil. She posted on Facebook that I had faked a pregnancy and stolen her baby photos to get attention. The post got reported and taken down quickly, but not before several family members saw it and started calling my parents in confusion. My poor mom ended up creating her own post with hospital photos of me and the baby, just to prove my sister was lying. That night, my sister showed up at my parents' house at 3 a.m., pounding on the door and screaming. The neighbors called the police, and she was arrested for disturbing the peace. My parents finally agreed to a no-contact order. But here's where it gets really twisted. While my sister was in jail overnight, she apparently told the officers that her family had kidnapped her baby and given it to her sister. She was so convincing that they actually called child services to do a welfare check on us. Having CPS show up at your door when you have a fragile preemie is absolutely terrifying. Thankfully, they quickly realized my sister's claims were completely fabricated. We had all the hospital records, birth certificates, everything. The caseworker was actually apologetic and said they'd seen cases like this before with unstable family members. The whole experience has been traumatic, but it's also been clarifying. My parents have been incredible through all of this. They're genuinely trying to make amends and have been amazing grandparents. My dad even took a leave of absence from work to help us during the baby's first few weeks home. As for my sister, she's been committed for a psychiatric evaluation. My parents are hoping she'll finally get the help she needs, but honestly, I'm past caring. I have a beautiful daughter, a supportive husband, and parents who are finally acting like parents. The restraining order is in place, and we're considering moving even further away once my maternity leave ends. I never imagined my family drama would escalate to this level, but I guess some people really will do anything to avoid facing reality. My daughter is thriving now, by the way. She's small but healthy, and watching my husband become a father has been the most beautiful thing in all this chaos. Sometimes I look at our little family and can't believe we survived everything to get here. Update 6. I really thought the last update would be my final one, but life apparently had other plans. It's been 3 months since my sister was committed, and just when I thought we could finally move forward, everything exploded again. This time in ways I never saw coming. My daughter is doing amazing now, hitting all her milestones despite her early arrival. My parents have been wonderful grandparents, and my dad even built her the most beautiful crib with his own hands. We were actually discussing them moving closer to us so they could help more regularly. I was starting to believe we'd finally found our happily ever after. Then my brother called last week with news that made my stomach drop. My sister had been released from the psychiatric facility earlier than expected. Apparently she'd been model patient and convinced them she was stable. But here's the thing, she never came home. My parents thought she was staying with friends, getting her life together. They were even cautiously hopeful. Turns out, she'd been living 2 hours away under a different name. How do I know this? Because she'd been working at my husband's company. Yes, you read that right. My sister somehow got a job at the same firm where my husband works, using our mother's maiden name and claiming she was recently divorced. She'd been there for 6 weeks, working as a temp in a completely different department. My husband had no idea. It's a huge company with hundreds of employees. The only reason we found out was because she made a move on him. My husband came home last Tuesday looking absolutely shell-shocked. He sat me down and said he had something crazy to tell me. Apparently, this new girl from accounting had been asking around about him, finding excuses to bump into him at the coffee machine, that sort of thing. He thought she was just being friendly since he mentioned he was married with a new baby. But that day, she cornered him in the elevator and started coming on strong, saying things like how she could tell he was unhappy and how new mothers sometimes lose themselves after having babies. She actually put her hand on his chest and suggested they grab drinks sometime. My husband is many things, but subtle isn't one of them. He told her flat out that he was happily married and completely devoted to his wife and daughter. That's when she said, even if your wife's family hates her? Even if she's caused nothing but problems? Something about the way she said it made him really look at her for the first time. That's when he realized she looked familiar, but he couldn't place her until she smiled. It was that same twisted smile my sister always got when she thought she was being clever. He immediately went to HR and security. When they pulled her employee records, everything started unraveling. The address she'd given was fake, the references were made up, and she'd somehow gotten past their background check by using variations of our mother's personal information. But here's where it gets really disturbing. They found out she'd been accessing the employee database, looking up my husband's schedule, his emergency contacts, which included me, and even his salary information. She'd been planning this whole thing. When security confronted her, she completely lost it. Started screaming about how my husband belonged with her because I was a terrible wife who had destroyed her family. She actually claimed that my baby was supposed to be hers and that she was just trying to fix what was broken. The police were called, and she was arrested for identity theft, harassment, and stalking. But the worst part? When they searched her apartment, they found dozens of photos of my husband that she'd somehow taken from his social media accounts and printed out. She had them arranged on a wall like some kind of shrine, along with pictures of our baby that she'd cropped so I wasn't in them. There was also a journal filled with detailed plans about how she was going to win him over and become our daughter's real mother. She'd written out scripts for conversations, planned accidental meetings, and even researched ways to make me look like an unfit parent. My husband is traumatized. He keeps apologizing, as if any of this was his fault. He's worried that somehow he encouraged her behavior, which is absolutely insane. The man barely talks to female cashiers at the grocery store. He's the least flirtatious person on earth. My parents are devastated. My dad actually broke down crying when I told him, saying he feels responsible for creating this monster. My mom has been calling me hourly, alternating between apologizing and making sure we're all safe. They want to fly out again, but honestly, I'm not sure I can handle any more family visits right now. The company has been great. They've offered my husband counseling and are cooperating fully with the police investigation. They're also reviewing their hiring practices because apparently my sister isn't the first person to slip through with fake credentials. But here's what's really eating at me. How long had she been planning this? The psychiatric facility said she was released early for good behavior, but now I'm wondering if she was just biding her time, planning her next move. Did she research my husband's company before she was even committed? Had she been stalking us longer than we realized? The restraining order we had apparently didn't cover her using a fake name, so our lawyer is working on getting additional protection. We're also looking into private security, which feels insane but necessary at this point. I keep thinking about how she stood in that elevator with my husband, trying to seduce him while talking about how I'd caused problems for my family. The audacity is breathtaking, but what scares me more is how calculated it all was. This wasn't some impulsive breakdown. This was a months-long plan to insert herself into our lives. The trial is going to be a nightmare, and I have a feeling this is far from over. My sister clearly isn't going to just give up and move on. But at least now we know exactly what we're dealing with, and we can protect ourselves accordingly. I just hope my daughter never has to know about any of this when she grows up. She deserves better than having an aunt who's completely unhinged.